The story begins with Herby, an old race car that was once one of the best and remained unparalleled in competition. Herby and its owner were able to reach many difficult places with ease. However, one day, Herby met with a terrible accident, and after that, it began losing every competition. Finally, its owner decided to send it to a junkyard. That day, Herby met Dave, the junkyard owner, but Herby didn't like him at all. A truck driver advised Dave not to mess with Herby, as this car couldn't tolerate humiliation. When Dave went to unload Herby from the truck, Herby poured gasoline on Dave's shoes. The driver pushed Herby from behind while Dave dragged it with chains. At first, Herby resisted moving forward, but then it saw an escape route and seized the opportunity to flee. However, its tires got punctured by metal nails on the way. Left with no choice, Herby had to stay in the junkyard with other cars, knowing it would eventually be crushed. Weeks later, we are introduced to Maggie Pate, a girl who arrives at her graduation on a skateboard. Her father was extremely proud of her because she was the first in their family to graduate. Maggie's family seemed very academically inclined. Maggie's father was a renowned race car coach, and he invited her to watch her brother Ray Jr.'s race. When they arrived, they met Ray Jr.'s sponsor, Sally. However, as usual, Ray Jr. crashed during his practice session. Ray Jr. was preparing for a professional racing competition but lacked racing skills. Later, when Maggie returned home, she noticed paintings on the wall that reminded her of her grandfather, who was one of the best racers of his time. Inspired by him, Maggie had also started racing at the age of 15 and dreamt of making a name in the racing world like her grandfather. However, one day Maggie had an accident, which changed everything. After that, her father strictly forbade her from racing. The next morning, Maggie's father told her they would go shopping for her graduation gift. Maggie and Ray arrived at the junkyard to pick a car, and that's when Herby noticed Maggie. Herby decided it wanted to go home with her. It tried to move toward Maggie, but couldn't because one of its rear tires was missing. At that moment, Herby was picked up to be crushed. To save itself, Herby honked loudly to catch Maggie's attention. However, Maggie was more interested in a nearby Nissan car. Just as Maggie was about to finalize a deal with Dave, Herby broke free from the crane and crashed onto the Nissan, destroying it completely. With no other option left, Maggie decided to buy Herby. After bringing Herby home, Ray fixed it a bit and suggested Maggie take it to Kevin's garage. When Maggie sat inside Herby, a letter fell from the dashboard. It was from Herby's previous owner, asking the new owner to take good care of it. However, as soon as Maggie started the car, it began moving uncontrollably, scaring her. Herby drove itself straight to Kevin's garage. At Kevin's garage, Maggie reunited with her high school friend Kevin, who had secretly liked her for years but never expressed his feelings. Kevin agreed to fix Herby, but said he needed to take it for a test drive. During the drive, Herby started emitting a lot of smoke, which annoyed Maggie. She decided to return the car, but Herby had other plans. It lifted its front tires and sped uncontrollably, eventually stopping at a sports car museum. At the museum, Maggie ran into her old classmate, Trip, who was the Nexel Cup champ. A crowd gathered to see him, and Herby started honking repeatedly, annoying Maggie. When she opened the hood to stop the honking, Herby splashed gasoline on her, ruining her clothes. Kevin found a racing suit and helmet in Herby's trunk, which Maggie put on. When Trip saw Herby, he mocked its shabby condition, telling Maggie to return it to the circus. Herby, offended, scratched Trip's car with its mirrors. Furious, Trip suggested settling the matter with a race. Initially, Maggie tried to apologize, but Herby locked its doors and drove straight to the track. Despite its old parts, Herby kept up with Trip's car. Trip tried to bump Herby off the track, but Maggie, now angry, decided to team up with Herby. Together, they outmaneuvered Trip and won the race by climbing onto the safety barrier near the finish line. Trip was livid at being beaten by an old car. After the race, Maggie admitted to Kevin that Herby had won the race, not her. Kevin congratulated her and dismissed her statement. The highlight was that Maggie, driving a 1963 car, had defeated the Nexel Cup champion. The next morning, Maggie saw her father arguing with Ray Jr. due to his poor performance, which caused them to lose another sponsor. Meanwhile, Sally arrived in her yellow Beetle, and Herby immediately fell for it. Sally showed Ray Jr. a video of Maggie's race, which left him shocked. He was angry that Maggie raced despite his warnings. To calm him down, Maggie lied, saying the driver was her friend Max. Maggie decided to race under Max's name moving forward. Meanwhile, Trip was deeply upset over his loss. His manager Larry tried to console him, saying it was just an ordinary race. But Trip, driven by ego, decided to race again and organized a 2-day competition, confident Max would participate. Maggie visited Kevin's garage, where he showed her his project to upgrade Herby into a new race car. However, Maggie hesitated, recalling her promise to her father to quit racing after her accident. Meanwhile, Herby spotted an ad for a racing competition offering a $100 prize. Herby brought the ad to Maggie's attention, and Kevin encouraged her to participate, offering to repair Herby for free if she agreed. Though nervous, Maggie agreed. Kevin and Maggie worked on upgrading Herby, installing a sunroof and other features. Meanwhile, Tripp tried to uncover Herby's secret, suspecting its engine held the key to its speed. Later, Maggie overheard Ray Jr. and Sally discussing their financial troubles, which further motivated her to win the race. On race day, Tripp was stunned to see Herby's transformation. When the race began, Herby showcased its power, defeating its competitors. The announcer declared that the winner would race Tripp's car the next day for the grand prize. Herby won the race with ease, qualifying to race against Tripp. That evening, while watching the race footage, Tripp noticed red hair under Max's helmet, realizing Max was Maggie. Meanwhile, Herby once again showed interest in the yellow beetle, pulling Maggie toward it. Maggie finally understood Herby's sentience and decided to embrace it. Kevin gave her a lucky charm necklace as a gift for the next race. Now here Maggie and Kevin were about to kiss, but just at that moment, Tripp turned on his headlights, ruining the moment and approaching them. Tripp asked Kevin to leave as he wanted to talk to Maggie alone. Once Kevin left, Tripp asked Maggie why she didn't race her own car. He revealed that he had been inspired to race by her grandfather. Then, he asked if she wanted to experience driving a real race car and handed her the keys to his car. Maggie was thrilled, but Herby, watching her leave for another car, was overcome with jealousy. As Maggie went for a drive in the supercar, Tripp seized the opportunity to check Herby's engine. However, Herby retaliated by spraying gasoline in his face and slamming the hood on his head. Furious, Tripp pulled a hammer from his toolbox and began attacking Herby, but Herby hardened its body, making it impossible to even scratch it. When Tripp turned around, Herby taunted him with funny expressions. Moments later, Maggie returned from her drive, calling it the best drive of her life. Tripp then proposed a deal. Whoever won the next day's race would not only get $100, but also take the loser's car. Maggie hesitated but thought of her father's financial struggles and agreed to the bet, confident she could sell Tripp's expensive car to help her father. She was also sure she could win with Herby. However, Herby was heartbroken to realize Maggie had betted in the race. The next morning, Maggie woke up to find her friend Charisma in the kitchen. Charisma suggested they leave for New York immediately, but Maggie explained that she had a race to compete in first and invited Charisma to come along. They reached Kevin's garage, where Kevin told them Herby had been acting strangely. He suggested Maggie talk to Herby, but when she angrily told Herby to obey her, only made Herby more upset. Finally, race time arrived. Herby and Tripp's car lined up at the start. As the race began, Herby sped ahead, but Tripp's car repeatedly overtook it. Near the finish line, Herby intentionally hit the brakes, allowing Tripp to win. Maggie was furious and stormed out of the car. Tripp taunted her, demanding she reveal her true identity. When Maggie removed her helmet, everyone, including her father Ray, was shocked to see her. Embarrassed and angry at Herby for losing, Maggie was consoled by Kevin, who suggested they leave. But before they could, Tripp arrived and reminded them of the new deal, claiming ownership of Herby. Kevin, furious, left the scene. Ray then confronted Maggie, expressing his disappointment over her constant lies. Maggie tried to explain, but Ray refused to listen. Upset, Maggie decided to leave for New York that very night. Charisma convinced her not to waste her talent for racing, and Maggie realized she had to fight for Herby. Maggie went to confront Tripp, but he revealed that his friend Crash had taken Herby out for a drive. In reality, Herby was in a monster truck competition, about to be destroyed. As the show began, massive trucks started crashing into Herby. Seeing this, Maggie rushed to save it, but was stopped by security guards. She pleaded with the owner, who told her she could take the car for free if it survived in one piece. Meanwhile, a monster truck prepared to crush Herby. At the last moment, Charisma distracted the security guards, allowing Maggie to slip into the arena. Dodging massive vehicles, she finally reached Herby. Seeing Maggie, Herby found hope, but the monster truck was about to land on it. At the last second, Herby pulled Maggie inside through its sunroof, saving her life. It then threw Crash out of the driver's seat, and together, Maggie and Herby escaped. As they fled, Herby skillfully avoided every obstacle, even jumping onto another car and landing on the monster truck, defeating it. After escaping, Maggie took Herby to Kevin's workshop. Kevin was horrified at Herby's condition, but immediately began repairs. The next day, they attended Ray Jr.'s race, but he crashed again. At the hospital, doctors revealed he had vision problems and couldn't compete in Sunday's race. Ray Jr. suggested Maggie take his place, but Ray Sr. refused. Maggie pleaded, explaining that racing had been her dream since childhood. She pointed out that despite her brother's numerous crashes, Ray had never stopped him from racing, yet he stopped her after just one accident. Ray, emotional, admitted that she reminded him of her mother, whom he had already lost and couldn't bear to lose again. Meanwhile, Kevin needed parts to repair Herby, but his supplier refused to deliver until Kevin settled an old debt. Ray Jr. stepped in, gathering his entire team to help fix Herby. Together, they transformed Herby, giving it a fresh, polished look. On Sunday, Tripp arrived at the NASCAR competition, shocked to see Herby there. He confronted Crash, who failed to destroy the car as instructed. Larry informed Tripp that he had landed a new ad contract, but Tripp was too focused on the race to care. Before the race, Maggie apologized to Herby, and they decided to work as a team. As the race began, all eyes were on Maggie and Herby. Ray watched nervously from home, but eventually decided to go to the stadium to support his daughter. Initially, Herby and Maggie lagged, but they quickly gained speed, catching up to Tripp. However, other cars surrounded them, leaving no way forward. Hearing her father's encouraging words, Maggie found the determination to break free. Herby, however, was leaking fuel, and the mechanics fixed it during a pit stop. They warned that one more hit could end the race for Herby. Back on the track, Herby and Tripp raced neck and neck. Tripp tried to ram Herby, but Maggie cleverly braked, causing Tripp to crash into a wall. Herby then performed a daring stunt, climbing a fence and overtaking all the cars to win the race. Maggie became the first female NASCAR champion, celebrating her victory with family and friends. Tripp, enraged, insisted Herby was a haunted car. Kevin finally confessed his feelings for Maggie, and she thanked him for his support. A few weeks later, Ray called Herby home early as another big race was coming up. That night, Herby went out for a drive with its girlfriend, the Yellow Beetle. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.